We're about ready to install my gas tank again. Just to recap, I did not like how soft the clear coat was on the factory paint. It was just too easy to scrub and mar. So I bought some new stickers and took the old stickers off, wet sanded the gas tank down, put new stickers on it, and then prepped it to clear it. And so now you can see it's looks a lot better, and the stickers are now covered, so they'll be protected from washing and things like that. So it's a lot more durable. So hopefully it'll hold up to the abuse, especially in this area here where you're always leaning on it and putting your arm on it and things like that. So we're gonna get ready to install it back on the bike. So we'll do that next. Before we install the tank, I'm going to take a closer look at this line right here, which is part of the evap system for the gas tank. This connector here looks like it is a reusable connector. So I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and see if I can't undo that. It just has a little nub right here that it connects onto inside there. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be easy to reuse. So we'll try that out here. I think there's obviously going to be a good tool to use for this, but I think if I just use some channel locks, I'll be able to test my theory out a little bit. And so that opens it up there pretty good. So let's grab a screwdriver. What we want to do is make sure we don't deform it, because my goal would be to just slide it back in place and then pinch it with this. So what we're going to do is go like this. I'm going to pry it out a little bit and undo it. And it looks like that has not done it yet. So we're going to try that again. So we're going to close it together and try and pry it open above that, and that worked out perfect. We'll give you a close view of this. So you can see the end of it here. Once you pinch it together, it just over centers onto that nub like so. So it'll be really easy to put back on. So what I'm going to do next is slide this down the hose, and so it'll be there. I'm going to go ahead and remove this and install it on the gas tank before I put the gas tank on the bike. Alright, so the piece we're going to install here is the higher pressure side of the evap system for the gas tank. I removed this off the hose that it was on the bike. When I took it off, I didn't disconnect it from the hose, and so putting it on, I think it'll be easier to do it this way. Make sure you use some fuel quality sealant on there, like Permatex or something like that. So I put quite a bit on there, probably a little too much, but it'll just push out and I'll wipe it off afterward. So that's the location of it. Should be pretty easy to screw in. I don't have a torque spec for this, so I'm just making it snug. Doesn't need to be over tightened. And then we'll clean up the rest of that off there. After this, we're going to install the fuel pump. Okay, that should be good. Hopefully it won't leak. So the next step is install the fuel pump, and that fuel pump goes right here. Okay, I've cleaned the side of the bike a little bit here because I'm kind of particular about how clean things are when I put them back together. I rechecked everything inside here to make sure everything is nice and snug. You know, it's the last time you're going to see it, so it's kind of a pain to get to it if you make a mistake. I've also cleaned the bottom of the gas tank to make sure it's clean, since the bottom of the gas tank is part of the air box. And I've installed the fuel pump, and so we're ready to get this installed on the bike. These two lines here we're going to hook up first. These are the two that I took off last, so we're just going to reverse that process. We're going to start by setting the tank in its position, like so. The front pipe here is the tube that looks like it's more a return line, so it's the weaker of the two tubes. It's not reinforced with any thread like the one with the clamp on it. And so we're going to put that one on first, and it's the forward one. We're doing that first because the hose will be in the way if we do the other one first. So we'll slide that on all the way. Does not have a clamp on it, so pretty easy to put on there. This one should be pretty easy to put on also without the clamp on it. And it was. We got that put on all the way. I'm going to take this clamp now, and I'm going to slide this clamp up so that the face of it is pointing out, and that'll give me access to it, so I can clamp down, re-engage that clamp. I'll show you that real quick here, what I did there. So that's that clamp there. Now I'm going to do is pinch these two ends, push this end to that end together, probably with a pair of side cutters, and hopefully it'll get clicked together. And you heard that click together. It was that easy. So that's pretty awesome that worked out that well. So the hardest hose to take off last time was one of the easiest ones to put on this time. Next thing we're going to do is plug in the pressure side of the fuel feed here, and we do that by lifting the gas tank and then reaching underneath. And so that line here is sitting right here from the hat for the upper fuel injectors, and very easily just slides on to the tank just like that. Hear a nice positive click, and so that's good to go there. So now we can set the tank down into its place, and we can start putting the bolts in place. So for bolting the tank back down, the first thing I'm going to do is install the front bolts, and those should be pretty easy to install. They just go right here on the side of the tank. There is a tube inside the rubber bushing for the tank that slides into this aluminum part here, so you do have to do that also, and so that may take a little bit of time to move the tank around enough to make that slide in there. We'll get the thread started on both sides first. Okay, that one is started. got this one started. We're going ahead and push this one in all the way. And that tube that's in there went in nicely to reset, or to set itself into that aluminum piece there. Let's see if this side does the same. And it looks like it did. So again, refer to torque values for getting these torqued down. I'll see if I can't put them on the screen when I get to it here. For now, I'm just going to hand tighten them. Okay, so we're ready to bolt down the back of the tank. Before we do that, we got to make sure that we plug in the fuel pump, and that is this wire right here. And then there's also ground for the tank, and that's that wire there. So we're going to put the ground kind of to the side. We're going to plug in the fuel pump first. You want to push until you hear that nice solid click. And then we put on the ground wire here. So again, self-explanatory. I got a pretty good picture of me undoing that fuel pump wire when I remove the tank, so you can refer to that video if you need a closer look at it. And then the next step is to install this bracket here, which is what is used to bolt the seat down. Make sure it's not binding up on anything here. That's good. This is an 8mm socket for this port here. Again, I'm just snugging these down by hand. If you're worried about over tightening, I do recommend that you go to the manual to get the specific torque value on there. I definitely don't want to over tighten them. Okay, got that snugged up. So everything's pretty well plugged in for the tank. We should be able to install the seat now, just so it's off the bench. So we're going to put this panel back on now. We have the coil wire, and then I'm not sure what this wire is for, but I had to disconnect it. And that goes through this hole right on the top of this panel right here. So we're just going to put those through that spot there. Of course, will be challenging. And put the wires in first, and then follow that with a coil wire. Since wires are thinner, the coil wire will pass those other wires easier. Pull that through, pull the coil wire through. This slide right here goes onto this point right here. So we're going to connect that first. Just like that. Now it's stable, not going anywhere. Now this wire will plug into that. Coil can now be plugged in, coil wire plugged in there. I'm going to put my hand back there for a little support so it clicks in nice. We have the power for the coil back here. So that goes through this area here, and we're going to plug that coil back in there. I did not hear a click on that one, so I'm going to double check it here. Doesn't come undone. There's also a yellow button for you to push that will keep that from being unplugged in the future, so make sure you reset that. Just like that. Then we have this plug here, and this goes like this little bundle of wires has been slid off this down here, so I'm going to reattach those. I always make sure I try to put wires right back where they used to be. We don't want wires rubbing on anything, so it always bothers me when people take bikes apart or anything apart, car, bikes, whatever, and they're too lazy to put things together correctly. So this is where this wire goes, and so this is going to come into here like so. This push pin here goes into this hole here, so it pushes in place. I'm going to run this behind the coil wire so it's behind something stiffer, and then should plug right back in there, just like that. So all those wires are reconnected. Now that they're all reconnected, and I've checked everything behind it, everything's nice and solid, I'm going to go ahead and install these 3 bolts here and put that panel back in place. I've had this panel off quite a few times. I took it off the first time for when I was installing my RNG racing sliders. Which were a pretty interesting install. Took quite a bit of time. Definitely recommend seeing that video if you're interested in a high quality, well made slider. It's a pretty cool product. It really stabilizes the engine, ties things together. Just seems to, I think it makes everything stiffer too. I don't know that it needs to be stiffer, but it certainly makes it stiffer. These bolts go into aluminum. Like I said earlier, I always check torque values on bolts that go into aluminum. And this one I'm not too worried about it because aluminum is a frame. It's not an engine component, and it holds down a rubber, lightweight bushing or a grommet that holds this plastic down. So just make sure it's tight enough not to fall apart. You still don't want to over tighten it. Okay. Got those 3 in. Now we can put this into place. It fits about like that, and then it has this very special looking holder. Looks like this. And just once this is sitting in place, you slide it in like that. Tighten it up with this. I use this because I made this. I didn't have a smaller Allen key that was on a ratchet, so I made that one, so it made my life a little bit easier and faster because it's a pretty commonly used size on this bike, and it's a 1 millimeter. No, it's a 3 millimeter. So this is used a lot on this bike. So now we got that side panel on. That holds all electronics. We can put the side fairing on now. Nope, not yet. We got one more panel to put on. We got this panel here, and we've got this rubber piece here. This rubber piece here goes around these hoses, and these hoses were ones that came from this tank. So we're going to put that on next. All it does is tidy things up, and again keeps things from rubbing, keeps hoses from rubbing on other hard parts like the radiator and other things that are in the area. This one is a little challenging to do. But it works just like that. And then we put on this piece here. This piece hooks around the forwardmost hose right there, and it sits in this fashion about like that. So you can see this water line kind of dirt mark goes right here. So we're going to go around that, and we're going to hook around that hose, and then it puts it about in the right spot. We have two fasteners that hold this down. This one here goes in the front. It's got a little shoulder on it. And you can get to it by going right through here, through the radiator. And we're gonna just finger tighten that for now. Then the other one that holds it on, this one here, and it goes right into that spot there. And it is an 8mm also. And we'll get started by hand first. There's a stud in there. That stud has a washer on the other side of it. That's kind of a centering washer. So make sure that washer's there too. Make sure you didn't lose it. If you do lose it, it ends up crushing that plastic and ruining that plastic. So again, I just hand tighten that. My calibrated torque wrench forearm. Just like that. Now we can put the side fairing on. I estimate that's probably about a half a gallon of fuel, so it should be enough to fire.